What's up, YouTube? My name is Will. This is Enzo riding shotgun, my German Shepherd. We're out to get some lunch real quick, but we are going to be talking about the Evo 10s today. Want to apologize, this video took me a lot longer than I thought to put together. With the 8s and the 9s, there really wasn't that much research I had to do. Most of it I just remembered from that time in my life, being around the cars all the time and everything. With the 10s, I wasn't as involved in cars and Evos during the first several years of the 10s, so a lot of that was kind of gray to me, and I wanted to make sure I was getting it right. After no less than 4 hours of reading forums, websites, also going to look at a couple of them, looking at for sale ads, trying to piece it together, I'm still not 100% certain on a few things. You know, what year exactly a couple things took place. There's definitely some debate. The good news is there was only a couple small things like that I couldn't quite nail down. You know, a couple like trim pieces and such. Most everything else I was able to put together. I will say, if anything is incorrect or if I've missed anything, definitely let me know in the comments and I can add that in. You okay, buddy? Slip. The chair ends there. But yeah, definitely leave those in the comments and I can add those in. Like I said, I think I got most of it, but there always could be those small things. Let's go, Accord. So let's go over some basics real quick. You know, the Evo 10 was the first generation to not have the 4G63 motor, so you have what's called the 4B11. The major difference being that the block's aluminum versus iron. Obviously, you've got the whole new body style. You know, Mitsubishi redid the entire Lancer, so therefore the Evo obviously has a whole new body style. In the MRs, you have the addition of the dual clutch, which got phenomenal reviews, and having owned one, I can tell you it's super nice. You know, I haven't had the luxury of comparing it to some of like the Porsche PDKs that I hear great things about, but I mean, the thing was super quick. I used to drive it in manual all the time and had no problems. In fact, if I was to buy another Evo 10, I'd be hard-pressed not to buy an MR to have that transmission again. It was really just that good. I know people love the 5-speed for the big horsepower, but you know, 9 out of 10 people say when they buy their Evo they're going to do big horsepower, and really maybe 1 out of 10 actually does it, if that. So I think if you're honest with yourself about what you want to do with the car, you may find the MR is a better fit. But that's not really what this is about right now. So the 10s came out in 08. They skipped 2007 after the 9s, and you also don't have a 2009 version because they just kept the 8s on the lots that they had. Mitsubishi said they had plenty. Okay, so you have no 07s, you have no 09s, and then the final editions are listed as a 15, even though most of those sold in 2016, 2017, and there's actually even still a couple for sale right now if you're stupid and want to pay like 2 or 3 times MSRP. I wouldn't do that, by the way. All right, gotta stop and drop off a package real quick. Got to send the radar up to escort. A little clip broke on it, so it won't stay on the window. Just drive it up there. I mean, they're only like 30 minutes from my house, but it's not that big of a deal. Buddy, you think you can wait here? Just a second. Wait. Oh, good boy. Yeah, good boy. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so while the 10s were for sale in the US from sometime in 2007 all the way up to technically still in 2018, Really, you only have the 07, or I'm sorry, the 08s, 10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, and 15s. And truthfully, I barely count the 15s because they ditched the recars in the US. Oh, buddy, you don't have your seatbelt on. That's why it's beeping. There's no seatbelt off button in this car, which is, I mean, I get why, but it's still kind of odd. I can put the seatbelt on the seat, but it actually forces him to scoot up a little bit, and then he can't sit on the seat. We don't do this very often. This is only like the second time. So usually it's not an issue, and it generally, once it stops beeping that first time, it doesn't beep again. So you do make it a little hard to see, buddy, I'm not gonna lie. Gotta just take up the whole big window there. Chick-fil-A's not too crazy considering it's after 1:30 right now. I actually wanted to go to lunch earlier, but it was just one of those days where something that really only takes 10 minutes, I still had to sit there and figure it out and plan it, which took like 2 hours. And I just, it's so annoying. It's like if you tell somebody what you did for the last 2+ hours, they'd be like, why did that take? That should have been like 10 minutes. Buddy, did you want anything from Chick-fil-A? It is way too hot to have to be standing outside taking orders on an iPad. Do have these little like enclosures around them though, so they can see them in the direct sunlight, so that's nice, I guess. Will?
Oh my gosh, your dog is so cute.
Thank you. We did drive to see a couple Evos. We were able to find one. It was a 2011, so I'll include some of that footage here. So here we have a 2011 GSR. Did have to drive a bit to get this, about 25 minutes. Not too terrible. Looks like the previous owner did care for it actually though. I mean, it's filthy right now, but it's got a clear brawl covering the entire front, bumper, hood, and fenders. $25,000 for 50,000 miles. I don't think I would want that, but not a terrible deal. Here is the factory wing that was on the 08 to 15 GSRs, MR non-touring and SEs. There's a non-stock exhaust, but it is still dual exit, which is factory. Normally you would have Lancer down here and Mitsubishi over here. These are the factory inky wheels. They've just been painted, powder coated something black. And multiple wheel locks on this particular example. Sorry buddy, we're almost done. These are the 2010 and higher tail lights. They are not red like the 08s were. And you'll notice this one has no fast key system. It would have a button right there. I don't know, this might have the aero kit. I can't really tell. The bumper sticks out, or the skirts sit out really far. Heel. Somebody thought a terrible idea to put chrome mirrors, and being that it is a GSR, you'll notice that all of this is black, so you don't have to deal with the chrome. Halogen lights on this particular example, and no sunroof. It does have the added mud flaps. It is locked and it is after hours. Heel. So this is the best we're really gonna get of this right now. I did have to drive a decent amount to get here for this. Not too crazy, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Enzo, sit. Oh boy. You notice this one has a clear brawl on it. All the way down here as well. The whole hood's actually cleared. The whole fenders are clear, brawled. The hood scoop's been changed, it looks like. They actually did care for this car. Oh, what a good boy. What you're gonna be able to see here, cloth seats, standard on the GSR. Basic stereo, which we already knew it didn't have the sight and sound package. Are you ready to go to the park? Heel. All right, so Enzo and I are headed to the park now, and for the rest of this video, I will just resort to photos of my previous Evo 10, MR, and any missing pieces I need. I'm sure I can Google and find them and put them in. So I'm gonna take him to the park before this rain hits, and we will pick this up in a moment. Well, we didn't beat the rain. So we took an alternative route home, and this was my backup dealership to stop at that was supposedly had an Evo 10. I wasn't even gonna worry about it now, but I thought, well, I might be able to see the interior or something, get some useful shots. Doesn't appear to be here, at least that I can tell. However, this place is just full of M cars. So, got the M3 convertible. Not my favorite style, but I mean, the generation with the V8, almost worth it just to have that V8. Then, we've got the M6 sitting here with the aftermarket exhaust. Not sure which. V-Power Cadillac. Not really my thing, but still kind of cool. C63 AMG. Enzo, heel. Shelby Mustang. Hellcat. And last but not least, M5. Terrible color, but still cool nonetheless. All right, we're getting out of here, but just wanted to show those real quick. In. Good boy. Well, clearly, rain and rear-wheel drive just was too much. Let's all the traffic slow down to look at it, though. Now, unlike the Evo 9s, there was at least some for sale in this entire greater Cincinnati area. I would have rather have actually been an 08, because that's really the only year that has some visual differences than the rest of them. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of misinformation out there. You know, I would go through things and get contradicting statements. I'm not going to nail down the exact model years on a couple things, just ultimately don't matter. For example, at the beginning, Mitsubishi called it the SSS package. Later on, it would change to an SS package and an SL package. And a lot of people would commonly confuse that as SSL because that's what it was on the 8s and the 9s. The gist of it is, especially with the GSRs, HIDs are an option. A sunroof is an option later on. It comes in the 2011s. And the sound system upgrades are an option. So even if you get the upgraded sound system, that doesn't include navigation necessarily. Navigation was always a standalone option. In a used car, really even in a new car nowadays, I don't know why you would really give too much thought to navigation, but just know that just because it has a screen doesn't necessarily have navigation. For example, my 2014 did not have navigation. Another bit of confusing, this car is just getting out of line. That's interesting, especially since you've already paid.
Thank you. I know, right?
All right, thank you.
What a gorgeous. Bye, doggies.
FYI, girls don't really care about cars, they care about dogs. So any of you single younger guys watching this, the investment is well worth it. Because trust me, all that time you're spending at the gym and everything, that's all well and good, but just take that time, get a puppy, train him so that he behaves like this, and you're golden. You don't have to do anything else. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Seriously though, Chick-fil-A is like a machine. I mean, they just tear through drive-thrus and everything's still like hot and correct and fresh. All right, so the other thing that was kind of confusing as I was going through all this data is the trim pieces change a little bit over the years. I'll show a picture of what I mean, but basically the door panels and the dash trim get upgraded and altered over time. It happens mostly around like the 2011, 2012 mark. Take my best guess, I'd say 2011. Be mindful of that. All right, at At some point the camera turned off. Not really sure what happened there. But as I was saying, the 2008s really are the only ones that you're going to see a little bit different. You're going to have that red gauge center stack between the speedometer and the tachometer, and then you're going to have the red taillights. The side skirts are going to be slightly altered, but really that's it. Honestly, I ran across that fact when I was doing all this research for this video. I'm sure I probably saw that post or something similar to it back when I had the 10, but it makes me wonder if I did, because I feel like even though I was never really focused on modding the 10 when we had it, for 40 plus wheel horsepower, I would have done that. I mean, manual boost controller costs you like 60 bucks, plus I already have one. And a tune, which they can usually just do a mail tune. No, tuning for just a manual boost controller really isn't gonna take that much time. You can just make a day of it, drive to your closest reputable shop, and just have it done. As I mentioned, there is no 2009. So we move on to 2010. 2010 is where you start to see Mitsubishi spread out the lineup a little bit. They add the SE model. Now, the SE model is a little bit different than it was with the 8s and the 9s. You could almost think of the SE model as the RS model in that it's the lighter weight, kind of more track-focused model in a sense. It gets the MR's suspension, so the Bilstein shocks, the Eibach springs. It gets the MR's dual clutch transmission. It does not get any of the MR extra stuff that adds weight. So I think the stats are somewhere around like 300 pounds, maybe less than a fully like MR Touring, fully loaded. Pretty substantial savings. Oddly enough, you don't get the BBS wheels, so that's kind of odd. They still roll on the inky GSR wheels. You would have thought that with all the weight savings they were going for, they would have done that, so it's kind of confusing in that sense. You never actually get an RS in the US with the 10s, which is kind of sucks, because the 10s were so much heavier that it really would have been beneficial to have an RS version. With the 10s, you also see, with the 2010 10s, you also see the touring version of the MR come about. That's where you see the huge weight savings versus the SE. You know, this was meant to be the more adult version to kind of that buyer that maybe wants something more like a 335. While I get that argument in theory, I still just, I don't know. That's not to say I don't like it. You know, basically my 14 was a touring. They don't call them that, which I'll get to that. But, I mean, it does make it nicer, but when you think of the added cost that it put onto the car, it was insane. I mean, a fully loaded MR, you could easily top like 41K. I mean, that's a lot of money for an Evo. All right, so Enzo and I are back at the house. I'm gonna eat lunch. It seems like I'm always making these videos around the time I eat lunch, even though I eat lunch anywhere from like 11 to 3 p.m. So it's just kind of weird that way. But I'm gonna go and eat lunch real quick, and then we will finish this video. Right, buddy? Buddy? What do you think? All right, guys. I am, it's past lunch now. I'm actually running a couple errands. I was gonna wait a moment to turn the camera on, but yep, there's the rain. How dark it is right now, it's only been like an hour since I cut this video. And you can, I mean, we are driving into the storm. It is super dark, and it was just like sunny a couple, not even half a mile back down the road. Say we were driving into a tornado, but I've had that unfortunate experience of being in a tornado, and I know this isn't it. When you drive something that was modeled after a brick in a storm that's windy, you move around a little. The second person has put their four-ways on. You wish I had closed the rear hatch. I had no idea it was supposed to rain. Back to this aerodynamic brick. Every time I slow down, all this rain just... On my way back home now. The rain has slowed to just kind of like a drizzle. Shouldn't really affect the audio or anything. If it does, when I get home, I guess I'll reshoot this. But basically, we're gonna move on to the 2011s. There's not a whole lot of changes in the 2011s. That's where you see some trim changes, some door panel changes, you know, nothing crazy. The one biggest thing that changes in 2011 is with the 10s, Starting in '08, they had the fast key. So if you've ever had a car where you can just put your hand on the handle and it'll unlock, it's just like that. And then there was always a button next to it. The button was for locking it, or for if you wanted to unlock other doors. I could do things like that. 2010 was the same. 2011, they actually get rid of the sensors. Now you have to push the button to unlock it as well. Not a big deal, but it's kind of one of those things that I think was a forecast of what was to come with Mitsubishi and the Evo. Is, you know, there was probably some weird reason, just like with the 2015 seats, the way they weren't going to have it, and they just said, well, screw it, we'll just go without it. No big deal. And that seemed to be Mitsubishi's mindset through the rest of the Evo's run. 2011, as I said before, is also where you start to see all the SSS to SS to SL type of trim package changes. Really, what's most important to take away is you have the option for HIDs, you have the option for the better stereo, you have the option for navigation on top of the better stereo, you have the option for a moonroof, and you have the option for leather heated seats. Partial leather that has like the Alcantara or the suede in the middle, those are not heated, so just keep that in mind. It is only the full leather seats that are going to have that option. It's kind of hard to notice if they have it. The easiest way to tell is you'll see it down here where the buttons would be. All I know is whatever lane this stupid Escape or Mercury version is, I don't want to be in, because they're going to end up doing something stupid. One of the things that happens is Mitsubishi does away with the MR Touring. It makes Touring a package. My Evo 10 had it, and I'll show you the list of stuff. Basically, it's what you would expect. It's the added sound deadening, which didn't make too much of a difference. So like so much louder compared to like the Focus ST. So after the 12s, the information out there gets really thin. And that's because, the best I can tell, there really wasn't a lot of changes to the 13s, 14s that came after. Have some minor things like, you know, some color changes, I think. The tune changes slightly, supposedly, in 13. I couldn't confirm that. But, I mean, Mitsubishi was always tweaking the tune throughout the years. But that's all there really is for the 13s. The 14s, it's the same. You have the introduction of the touchscreen, which mine had. I'll show you that. That wasn't navigation. That's it, really. You know, nothing else changed. I mean, you can already see that we have stopped evolving at this point. And then the 15 is just the kicker, which is, you know, I mean, I'm glad Mitsubishi still sold the car in the US. I would rather them have done that than to not sold it all, because at least there's more Evos out there for the future. But at the same time, they clearly just didn't care anymore. Wow. Okay. Highway is not moving. Let me stop what we're doing here. This is what happens when you're late. May not be an Evo, but I can sure be a Colorado. Anyways, with the 15, you have the introduction of the final edition, which I'll talk about that in a second. As far as the other cars, the only major difference you're going to notice is you don't have Recaros. And, I mean, it just sucks the soul out of the car. I know it has to do with the airbag laws, I guess, changed and took effect. Mitsubishi didn't want to redesign a seat for 1 year for one market. I get that. When we bought our 14, there were still 15s around, new. And at the time, you know, my thought was, well, maybe I should buy one, because obviously they're going away. But I was never even tempted to try to buy a new one or convince the wife we should buy a new one, because I just didn't want to deal with those seats. I knew that I would immediately have to swap them out, which means I'm going to have to go out and find some good condition used seats. And they're not cheap. I mean, depending on whether or not they're cloth or leather or partial leather, you could be upwards of $3,000+ for a good set of the OEM Recaros. For shopping tip, if you go to find an Evo, specifically prior to 15, so like a, you know, a 14, a 13, 10. It's very common for people before they sell those cars or trade them in to swap out the Recaros now. You see that a lot, where you didn't see that as much back in the day, but there's such a high demand from 15 owners from them that, you know, I've got a buddy that sold his for over $3,000. So I can't say I necessarily blame people, and I was tempted when we traded in our MR, because I mean the dealership, we traded into a Ford dealer, they're not gonna know. I mean, shoot, even Mitsubishi probably wouldn't even notice, let alone a Ford dealer. But if you go to buy one and it does not have the Recaros, it's okay, but you need to make sure you negotiate that into the price, because you need to look at a comparable one with Recaros, and this one needs to be like $3 cheaper, because that's what they're worth. I pretty much just wouldn't buy one, because you're not going to get a dealer that wants to, or probably even a seller that wants to lower it that much because they think, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters. It takes the entire soul away from the car. Even if you're fully intending to buy aftermarket seats, you still need to get the price or the seats that were meant to come with your Evo, because otherwise you're just screwing yourself. That's the end of my seat rant, but that's what kept me from ever looking at 2015 when we bought our 14 MR. Our 14 MR, if you don't know, it had 19,000 miles on it. It was a single owner lease that he traded in early. So, I mean, the thing was just mint condition. That's why I had no problem taking that over a new one. Plus, you know, my whole disdain for new cars, even being an Evo, I was still leery. But let's talk about the final edition. The final edition was Mitsubishi, I guess, trying to send it off. I don't know, it was just terrible. But, I mean, it had some cool features. Honestly, though, it had some features that the Evo, especially like the SE, should have just had to begin with back in the day. It had different wheels, which are, they're okay. It had the black roof. The black roof is cool. I'll 100% agree with that. Especially on like the white cars. Black roof looks completely cool. It's painted, you know, it's not vinyl or anything, it's actually painted. So that's really cool. But you could do that to your own car. It had the red anodized intercooler piping and strut bar under the hood, which, if you're a fan of red, like myself, that's cool. But then you're stuck with the stock intercooler piping at that point. You know, the strut bar's fine. Then they wanted to charge you like a couple grand for this package. So essentially you have a GSR with some red bits under the hood that you could do yourself for a couple $100. You had a red painted or a black painted roof, which again you could do yourself for a few $100. And then you had some red stitching, which would probably look much cooler if it was on the proper Recaro seats. But it's on seats that I knew I was going to toss immediately. So it just kind of kills the whole thing, at least in the US. Price is just not worth it, and it holds no extra resale value. So anybody who's bought one, I'm sure when you bought it, you thought, oh man, I'm going to keep this for a long time, and I hope you do, because it's not helping your resale value. They seem to be right on par with just regular GSRs when I'm looking around, and I know as a buyer, I'm not really going to pay extra for that, because again, I can just do all that stuff myself. Speaking of overpriced cars, I mean, they're nice if they were, you know, $5 cheaper, or at the very least sold at sticker. Alright, when you screw up like this GMC has done, you need to just take your lumps and go the way that your lane says, instead of almost causing multiple wrecks. I mean, what the So, I guess they just added the Shelby letters for fun? And with that, that's pretty much going to do it for the Evo 10 video. I hope you guys have gotten some use out of this. If you guys are shopping for Evos, we just wanted to know more about the cars. You know, I definitely hope that they've been useful. If you like the Evo content, car content, like seeing Enzo, things like that, please subscribe, like if that's your thing. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Enzo and I are going to clean up after the storm, get all these sticks out of the driveway and stuff. Right, buddy? Fun fact, this is how our old Civic got totaled, and we ended up buying the Evo 10. It was because a tree fell, or a big chunk of it, and totaled the Civic. So we had to go buy a car, and we bought the Evo MR. All right, buddy. Let's say bye. Say bye-bye.
How'd you get so far?